Good morning, and it is the last morning here in Italy. And look at that out there, absolutely stunning. There's mist rising off the lake. Everything's wet because of the dew in the air, but yeah, we've got to start the laborious task of packing down and putting everything away. But we've seen some absolutely monumental fish this week, and some really nice fish caught by the Prologic guys as well. Getting to see an 80-pounder and a couple of 70s, it's just been mind-blowing really. What an amazing place.
In the event of an emergency, you will hear an alarm throughout the ship.
When the Prologic team headed to Italy towards the end of 2023, it was with great anticipation. We'd heard rumours of some monumental fish being caught from the lake in question. So we set off on the mammoth drive through France to the Alps and through into the northern part of Italy. We were due to meet Frank and his son Guy, who had already been doing a week's fishing on a nearby lake. We had a quick stop for supplies at a local supermarket before heading onto the lake in torrential rain, which looks set in for the day. Unfortunately, as a team, we came out last in the draw, but this didn't stop Frank getting in amongst the fish early on.
We've just started on a new water, never fished it before. Felt a little bit like we were in quite a tight spot, but did the usual tactic that I like to employ on these sort of trips. So 18 miller with a piece of plastic corn on the top, and off it's razzed in 30 feet of water. First one of the trip, been in about half an hour. Got the whole week ahead of us, and how good's that? It's just piled up. And it doesn't feel a bad fish either. And yeah, I think there'll be a few to come actually with a bit of luck. Right, there we go. That was well hooked. Just slightly off centre, middle of its mouth. Yeah, it's a great start, really. You've got to be pleased with that, haven't you? I know it's quite a prolific water, this where we are, but it's always good to get one under your belt. We've set up in torrential rain this morning. We've done a draw, and I came out of the draw last. 7th out of 7 groups, so that wasn't the best start, but hey, you know what? We've never been here before, any of us, so we don't know what's what.
Not long after his first fish, Frank was away again with something a little bit special.
Look at that for beauty. Hey? Magnificent. What a start.
Next up, Guy got in on the action as well, and things were looking good for the week ahead.
So, first fish for me in Italy, 39-pound mirror. What a fish. Off the mark, super happy.
The next day, the weather had improved, and although me and Ed were yet to catch, the stunning dawn lifted our mood from the cold and damp of the previous day.
Well, morning guys. First morning in Italy. What a crazy sort of night that was and start to the session. We got down after a monster drive for some of the guys. I was already here, I was fishing another water, but some of the guys did 14-hour stints to get round. You know, quite an interesting start to the session. And then we've had terrible weather. We've had monster storms. We got down yesterday in torrential rain, the skies were black. Me and Guy came out of the draw last, and Ed and Si, as luck would have it, we were in groups and we came out 7th of 7, so well, not the best of starts. Anyway, sometimes things are meant to be. We chose an area that no one fancied, but I used the same tactic as I normally start with, and we're boating on this session, by the way. Don't normally use boats that much, but this is one of those waters where you do need it because you know, the fish stay out at range a lot of the time. Contrary to that, we found them close in. On the sounder, thought why go over the top of the fish just to go distant when it's easy fishing close in, so we did that. And I had a low 30 common fairly straight away, and then followed it up with a 55-pound common, which was a great start. And then Guy had a 39 mirror in pitch black, so we took shots of that in the dark. And so the lads around the lake are steady. A few are doing better than others. We're getting some sturgeon and catfish involved as well, those channel catfish. And the weather's brightened up, thank Christ, because it was just all night incessant, and the wind got up, and I thought we're on a platform and we'd used a drill and screws and washers to peg the bivvies down, and I thought it was going to rip out. So testament to the Prologic bivvies. They stood up to all the hammer, and the SLR bivvies, that is, we got 2 of those, and we thought, you know, if it stands this, they're pretty damn good, no problems. So there we go. We'll keep you posted on how it goes, and we're starting to get fishing properly now because we can, you know, relax with the better weather. So it's all to play for, and I'll speak to you soon.
This is my first ever time in Italy, and yeah, I'm really pleased with the lake we chose. It's a fantastic place. You can just see the Alps on the horizon there. It was a hell of a drive coming down, as it would be, but yeah, as I say, it's good to be here. So this is my first morning. Nothing really happened last night. When we got in this swim, it was absolutely pouring with rain. And there were a few fish about. There was a big flat spot right in front of me, and the odd fish was showing, and there was an odd little bubble coming up as well. So there was definitely fish here when I got here, so I didn't really let around too much. I just had a quick flick around with a marker. I think I had 2 casts, found a bit of gravel, put all 3 rods on it, because I haven't really got a lot of room here because a lot of these swims face into each other, so I've only really got one area, sort of one bowling alley to fish. So I found a spot, put all 3 rods on it, and I didn't really want to spot and potentially disturb the swim too much. So I just throwing stick a load of bait around, probably put about 2 kilo out, fishing about 100 yards, but it didn't really pay off for me last night, and I think the fish have pushed off. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the dinghy out and get the echo on it and go and try and find out what's out there. Probably have a little lead around as well with a marker. I'd try and find some gravel, pop the float up and see if there's any sort of depth variations out there, and yeah, see what's out there really. But I think if we can get the rods out with a dinghy and a fair bit of bait around it, I think that's probably the better option than trying to go with a throwing stick and a spread of baits, because, well, didn't really work last night.
Right, you've joined me in my swim here in Italy. It's my first time fishing in Italy, so I'm really excited. And already the guys around the lake, well, guys and girls actually, have caught some amazing fish, up to 73 pound 9 ounces. So I'm pretty blown away with that, but unfortunately for me, I'm yet to get off the mark. I'm in swim 7, which is kind of near the sort of clubhouse area of the lake, and we're in the second sort of afternoon now, so I've done about 24 hours. When we got here it was pretty horrific weather, and I must admit I kind of rushed getting the rods out really. Didn't have much time for kind of leading around and everything before dark, so I just kind of cast out, felt a clear area, and then put my 3 rods on that with a bit of bait. So, you know, surprise, surprise, nothing's really happened, but there's also not been a lot showing in this area of the lake, and Frank and Guy to my right, I've had 3 fish between them, but it's gone very quiet for them now, and Ed to my left has also not caught anything, so we're starting to think maybe we're in the wrong area of the lake. But with the amount of people that are on here, I think there's about 17 people on here, it's very hard to kind of move swims without kind of cutting other people off, so we might have to just stick with it and hope that the fish turn up in numbers and we start catching them. And it can be the way on these sorts of lakes, you know, they go around in big shoals, and you know, you might have a couple of days with nothing and then you might catch 5 in a day. So we just need to kind of be persistent. Hopefully a few fish will turn up and we'll have something to show you before too long. But throughout the course of the session, we know we're here for a week. We're going to be taking you through the tactics, showing you rigs and all that sort of stuff, because you know, it's nice to give something to you guys for watching the videos, and a bit of information and tips and stuff to hopefully help you in your fishing as well. So stunning lake, about 40 acres, 45 I think, so one of the bigger lakes that I've ever fished really, and I'm a bit out of my depth, excuse the pun, but the lake is quite deep. It goes down to 30 foot in places, and I think where I'm fishing is about 20 to 23 foot, something like that. So it's quite deep water, but we are in October, it's actually Halloween today, so 31st of October, good time of year to be fishing in the deeper water really. And plenty of fish are being caught, so obviously they're not put off by it. So I'm going to stop rabbiting on now and keep my eyes on the water and try and work out where the fish are, and hopefully a few will turn up fairly soon.
That day passed uneventfully for us, but Gav on the point swim managed this stunning big common going into the second evening.
Second day in Italy. It's the 1st of November today, so we're banging to autumn and we've been walking around roasting. It's so contrary. The day before, torrential rain when we're setting up, and then waking up to a big high pressure, not a cloud in the sky, roasting. Some of the guys are in the shorts. It's crazy the weather, the variance of it. We've had some interesting results. There's a Scandinavian couple, Kim and Marianne. They came out of the draw first, so they got the spot that everybody fancied. We're not daft, we know where the fish are. And believe it or not, they've got a lot of water over there and the fish are there. They've only gone and had the same monster, perfect linear that's 74 pound. They've caught it twice, and we're only 48 hours in. They've had quite a few fish. And as I say, this linear is just ridiculous. It hardly ever gets caught normally, which is one of the strange things, but it must be properly troughing. And I picked this for my sins this week because I knew that the fish would be on the munch ready for winter. But obviously you've got to take the rough with the smooth. The weather can be pretty ferocious, so that's the price you pay. Anyway, I think to our horror the fish have bunched up ready for the colder weather coming, and there's about 1/3 of the lake that's doing all the fish. We caught a couple immediately when we got in the first hour, and then it's just shut up shop. We're in the deeper part of the lake, We've got 32, 33 feet here, down to 35 actually. Pretty featureless, quite flat. There's no weed. In them depths you don't get any kind of weed. Anyway, the part of the lake they're in, it's absolutely fishing its gonads off. You know, it's really ripping over there. Basically, Ed and Si are going to move tomorrow, and me and my lad Guy, we're moving. There is enough room just to squeeze in. We're not treading on anyone's toes. We all come together as a group. We all fish as a party, and we don't want to be going home sort of like head in your hands thinking, oh my God, you know. And it's obvious where the fish are, and there is plenty of swims on here. Normally when there's all the Italians are on, there's 36 swims. So, you know, you imagine how many people's on, and there's 17 of us, so there's plenty of room. Interestingly enough, Si and Ed were worried about line pressure. And Italy's completely different from the UK in a lot of ways. The line pressure does matter. But if them fish want to be in them areas, I've found that they just don't shift. They stay there, and it doesn't matter what you do. If they want to be there, they want to be there. So you get away with murder. So tomorrow we're on the move, and then you'll see something. We're going to make up for this slower start. So yeah, it's all good.
Right, so as you can see, we are sheltering under this very convenient canopy here, which has been where we've sort of sat in the evenings. And the weather is pretty bad today, and it's due to get a lot worse. And annoyingly, we need to move swims because it's been really, really dead for us. We just can't get out to the range where the fish are. And a lot of them are showing down in the sort of bay near the entrance of the lake. So think about a move, aren't we, mate?
Yeah, as much as we don't want to leave the cover of this when it's absolutely pouring it down, it's due to get even worse this afternoon, but there's no fish here in this little corner. We're sort of really hemmed in, and yeah, we're just in a corner, so we've got guys going in front of us out there. There's guys to the right of me that are going straight, but because the swims are facing in each other, you know, we're kind of in each other's water, and yeah. I've literally got a strip of a rod length and a half wide to fish into, and it's not ideal, but there's fish in that bay up there. So, like Simon says,
Dave's just been and had one on this morning as well, so they are getting caught there as well.
They're in there, every time we look they're in there. A couple of people have moved in there and fished for them, and the fish have stayed there. That was my one thing with it being a bay. I was a bit worried about them kind of drifting out as soon as a couple of fish were caught, but they're still in there. You can see from here the edge of it, and there's still the odd fish going, and we've been talking to the guys on the far bank, and they said they're going, and we've stood in there yesterday afternoon, and there was some bubblers still coming up, so the fish are in there, so we need to move in after them and get soaking wet. Ideal world we'd still be fishing with Frank and Guy, but we can't do it and stay on the fish.
Yeah, they're moving as well, so Frank and Guy were in the platform next to us. I think it's swim 6. But they're thinking about moving round to the sort of end margin of the lake, next to Lee, who's been catching a few fish. So obviously the fish are there. A smaller stamper fish for him, it seems, but you know, bites are bites. And yeah, we've got to make the move. So yeah, we're going to start packing up, try and keep everything as dry as we can, and get round there. Then we've got to go do the shopping. I've got no food left. And then come back and get the rods out. So we'll try and catch up with you a bit later on once we're all sorted, and yeah, hopefully we'll have some fish to show you before too long.
What followed was a very wet couple of hours moving swims, and filming wasn't really an option. However, no sooner had we got the rods out, I was away, showing that location is the most important part of the jigsaw.
Right, me and Ed have spent the last 2 or 3 hours moving all our stuff in the pouring rain. Then we had to go to the supermarket. We've got a nice bit of lunch while we're out. Come back, got the rods out, and in half an hour I've managed my first Italian carp. Can't believe it, you know, half an hour in the right spot has done me a fish. I spent 3 days around there blanking, so absolutely buzzing with that. It's not massive, but I'm off the mark, so I'll get it out and show you now once we've weighed it, and hopefully there'll be more to come. just weighed it and it was 27 pounds, so not the biggest fish in the world, but I'm off the mark in Italy. So I'm well happy with that, obviously. And we've not got much light left now, but I need to get that rod back out. And then tomorrow, I'll talk you through the tactics and show you my bait. It's a little bit different to how I normally fish. I started off with my normal tactics and then followed suit with some of the guys that were doing really well. And it's paid off really quickly, so yeah, let's get this one back and get the rod out, and it'll be dark by then. So tomorrow I'll show you the tactics. See you later. Right.
Content to have caught one, I didn't expect anything else to come along for a while, but the fish had other ideas.
Well, I was just sorting out the rod for getting it back out after that last fish, and the left-hand rod's gone now, so that's 2 rods in the space of half an hour after moving today. So it just shows you location really is everything. This one feels a slightly better one. It's been kiting left and right and took out my other rod, and I think possibly took out Ed's rod as well, so sorry mate. But yeah, it knows where it wants to go, this fish. But it is getting close now, so hopefully we'll be able to see it and get it in the net. So I've been saying for a couple of years, guys, that I've been struggling to beat my PB common. I think it's £37 in France and 36.12 in the UK. I've never had a £40 common. And Ed's just said to me that this looks like a PB, so it's just got a little bit more serious. He just doesn't want to give up at the moment. Come on. Come on. Yes. Get it in. He looks all right, mate. He's quite a wide one. Woo! Yeah. That's got some girth to it. What a fish that is. Proper unit of an Italian common, £47, 2 ounces. I can't believe I was thinking about maybe not moving today, and then we've gone through the effort of moving in the rain and we've had a right result. Within half an hour of getting the rods out, that first rod went, and then before I could get that rod back out, this one's gone and it's my PB common. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Better get some pictures and get it back, and I've got 2 rods to sort out now, so it really will be dark by the time I've done that. Let's hope there's more to come. Thank you, Mr. Carp. Woohoo! Come on. You see how it went back?
Keep it coming.
Woohoo! Yes. Right. Right, well, it's 1 o'clock in the morning on Friday morning. We've been here since Monday. And after a move today, I've finally got on some fish. And I've now had 4 takes, and this is the 4th one. I lost 1, unfortunately, but I've had those 2 that I've shown you. And then I thought I'd show you this one, another £40 common. It's £40 and 8 ounces, so just over 40. And my second £40 common of the day, so I'm so glad I made that move. There it is, another stunning Italian fish, just over £40, and it's really paid off, that move today. You know, it was pretty horrific in all that weather, but we got there in the end, and the fish have rewarded us. Right then, good morning. As you can see, this is my sort of bay that I've started fishing now. So I was in swim, I think it was 7, round in the little house there, and you know, just wasn't happening. Did 3 nights there, barely got a bleep, and Ed to my left hadn't had anything, and Frank and Guy had had a couple the first evening, but then nothing since then. So we all decided to have a move yesterday in the pouring rain, and here we are. So I've gone in swim 3, Ed's to my left in swim 4, and Frank and Guy have gone right round on the far side. Not entirely sure of their swim number, but we'll go and find out and chat to them a little bit later on. But as you saw, the move paid off, and I had a couple of fish quite quickly, and then through the night I had another 40-pound common. So, you know, we're up and running now, which is such a relief really, because you don't want to drive all this way after 10 hours driving, and then about 8 hours the previous day. You don't want to be blanking really, do you? It's worth the effort to move swims, get on the fish, and then you start catching, as we've proven. So the little bay that I've got behind me here is quite a small area sort of in the entrance when you first come into the lake, and we kind of disregarded it really, kind of drove past thinking we need to be out in that middle body of water, but the guys on the far side have been seeing them in here, and Guy, Frank's son, has been round and nicked one in the morning just on a bag in this area as well, so the fish have been getting in here quite regularly, so it was an obvious choice to go in here. And it's quite short range, which is really nice. I'm only fishing at about 40-50 yards and just picking a tree line to aim at, really. I'm using a boat because, you know, it's really, really small little bay. You don't want to be sort of chucking out and spodding on top of fish. They're going to be out and then they've gone forever in the abyss out there. You know, it's 35 foot deep out there. So if fish are in an area, you need to just be quite quiet and stealthy. So I'm just putting a little bit of bait in the boat and driving it out and dropping it down on a slack line, which is not how I normally fish with a boat, but because it's so deep, you don't want that swing back to take your hook bait away from your free bait that you're putting out. So in a little while, I'm just going to talk you through my mix of bait that I'm using, a little bit different to what you might have seen me using before, and the rig that I'm using I'll show you as well. Right, so the base of my mix that I'm putting out is a mixture of hemp and flaked maize, and I've got sweet corn in there as well. So all small particles that are going to sort of flutter down and spread out on the lake bed, just keep the fish kind of rooting around in an area. I'm only putting out a boatload with each rod. I'm not sort of like baiting up a spot. I'm just putting out enough for a bite really, but on here in this deep water, that's probably going to be over 1 kilo per run with a boat, you know, so you get through the bait quite quickly. So I'm having to kind of make it up in advance and kind of keep prepping, ready for the next kind of flurry of activity. So we've got flake maize, hemp and corn in there, and then what I'm doing is I'm soaking my boilies. I've got some amino ester boilies soaking in water here and some liquids just to make them quite soft, and then when they've been in there a while and they've gone soft, I will then crush them up into this mix to add like a boilie crumb kind of sloppiness to that mix as well. So the bucket's kind of half full at the moment with the hemp and the flake maize and corn, and then I'll fill up the rest of the bucket with the boilie crumb that's been soaked to make like a real nice kind of porridgey kind of consistency. It's going to make a cloud in the water that hopefully pull the fish down with all them fine particles getting down to the bottom, and then hopefully in amongst that they find my hook bait. And it worked really well for me yesterday. You know, I had a bite within half an hour getting the rods out, and then a couple more since then as well. So the reason I've gone for this sort of mix, when I started, I was using pellets and boilies straight out of the bag. And I realised that in that really deep water, you need a bit more attraction, more liquid, kind of more cloud, just so when the fish are swimming past, they kind of see it, and it hopefully pulls them down to investigate the area. And Lee on the far side has been smashing it up. You know, he's had loads of fish, and he said he's using like a sloppy kind of a mix. So I've gone with this, the smaller particles, more liquids, and more of a cloud of attraction rather than just kind of hard baits on the bottom. So these boilies have been soaking only for like 10-15 minutes, and already they're kind of breaking up, but they probably need a good sort of couple of hours to really soak in all that juice, and then you get like a real nice sloppy consistency, which yeah, is absolutely perfect I think in this situation. So I'll make some of this up in a minute, and then I'll show you it when it's finished. And then I'm going to talk you through the rig and the hook bait that I'm using to sort of complement this mix. Right, so here it is, my finished mix. I've added the boilie crumb now, so you can see you get that nice kind of porridgey, pasty consistency, which just kind of on a deep water goes down to the bottom quite quickly, but also spreads out a little bit, so you get like a nice little patch of bait with the hook bait in amongst it. So yeah, once again, that is just hemp, flake maize, sweet corn and boilie crumb, and then a couple of liquids and things in there just to spice it up a bit. And yeah, I've just been putting out a boatload of that with my rig each time, and it's been working. So hopefully tonight the fish will come back. It's been a bit quiet today, but yeah, we've still got 3 nights left, so there's every chance we might have a couple more. Right, so we're back in the bivvy now because it's looking like the weather's on the turn again. But thankfully I think it is due to brighten up this afternoon, and we might get a couple of days of fairly nice weather, so we might be able to actually dry some of our clothes out. Yeah, it's been pretty hard work. But I just thought I'd run you through the rig that I'm using. So it's one you might have seen me use a few times on videos before. It's just a little Amnesia D-rig there, so I've got a nice size 5 chod hook there, and I've got about 12 inches of Amnesia, which is like a mono material, and a little blob of putty in the middle just to help sink it down. And then my hook bait is just an amino ester boilie topped with a half a yellow wafter there, and that's not really there for buoyancy, to be honest, because half a wafter is not going to be all that buoyant. It will just help the bait sit up a bit, but not off the bottom. You know, it's kind of hard on the bottom, which is kind of where I want it, using all these small bits of particle. But it's more for a bit of yellow sight bobber, because I'm using corn and flake maize and stuff in the mix. I just want this to kind of stand out. It's that little bit brighter than the corn, but not too bright to be kind of spooking the fish.
While the fishing was hard for us being in the less favourable swims, it was awesome to see the other people's catches, such as this one for Dave.
Well, it's the 5th morning on the lake, and it's not happened for me at all. Coming out bottom of the draw, really, I've done it for all 4 of us, really. It's one of those things, the guys in the main swims are ticking a good few fish off, and we're having to kind of fit in around people. Obviously, we've moved swim to this bay, and now we've done 2 nights in this bay, and realistically, I had a chance when I first moved in for about the first 4 hours, when Simon had his 3 fish. But they've pushed out now. You know, all I managed in that time was a blackamoor that did my middle rod, so it isn't going to plan for me. So yeah, the location's definitely been wrong. The fish where we moved from are now pushed back to where we came from, but the guys either side have spread out a little bit, so I don't think we can really move in. But I'm not saying it was a wrong move to move here, because I think we've moved these fish from here into there. You know, with it being really, really deep, 30-odd foot out there, I think it's very, very noticeable when you've got lines in the water and the fish are just pushing off the lines. It seems to me that consistently out in the centre bit, where the guys are just taking fish off from, but every time we move on to them in one of these bays or one of these corners, the fish are just pushing out. So, yeah, I don't know what the answer is. I have made a couple of mistakes. Like I say, I probably should have caught the very first evening, and then the first evening I moved into here before they did the off, and I've come across something that I've never experienced before, and that's the fish don't seem that keen on taking pop-ups. From talking to most of the guys, they've caught on criticals and bottom baits, and I think what's happening is I'm I've consistently caught on pop-ups no matter where I've gone. You know, it's my go-to rig. I normally fish a couple of pop-ups and maybe a critical or a snowman or something like that as my go-to approach. But thinking back, most of the waters I fish are weedy or silty, and I fish predominantly boilie, whereas these fish in here don't seem to be on the boilie, which is the mistake I made the first night by just sticking a load of bait out. So, load of boilies out. So, I think I should have gone critically balanced bottom baits from the off with bits and pieces, and that may have given me a chance the first night, and it may have given me the chance the first night in here, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, there is the odd fish around, but not many at all. Most of them have sort of pushed down there or sitting out in the middle, so I don't know. I've got 2 nights left. Not sure there's a move on. There might be a stalking opportunity in the day, I don't know. As mentioned previously, we've seen fish where we first started out. So they've obviously moved from here to where there's no line pressure. So I've contemplated a move into there, but I just think they'd move out again. I just think you've got 3-4 hours on them. I think they're really nomadic. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take 2 rods down there and just cast onto fizzers. They've stopped showing in there now, but I can just see fizzers coming up here, there and everywhere. So I'm tying up a rig now. I'm going to make us some PVA bags up, grab a bucket of bait, a tackle box, and just going to have 2 hours with 2 rods on a platform, cast into bubblers, and I'm just hoping I can pick one up. It might work out, it might not, but there's not a lot out here, so there's not much I can do in this swim. I don't think there's any decent moves on around the lake, because everywhere you're going to move to that's free, and there's not many free areas. I think I'm just going to spook them off or annoy people, so that's the only area I can see where there's fish, where no one's fishing. So I'm going to give it 2 hours this morning and see what happens.
Unfortunately, Ed's efforts didn't pay off, and time slipped away uneventfully. Before long, it was time to get everything set for the night, and a slight change of tactic for me was to prove more than worthwhile.
Well, I said on the way down that I wanted to beat my common PB, and I've already beaten it twice this week, and I've beaten it again with a 51 pound 2 ounce common, caught last night, sort of, well, early hours of this morning. Just as it was getting light, the rod's ripped off. I actually moved my spot. I'll talk to you about it later, and a slight change of tactics as well, and it's paid off. So let's try and show you this fish. Yeah, so 51 pound 2, a new PB common from Italy. And yeah, I'm blown away. It's been a really tough week for us. We couldn't really get on the fish, coming last out the draw. We've had to move, and yeah, just happy to have had a couple and sort of made up for the first few days of blanking. Right, one last look at him before he goes back. Well happy with that. It's made the trip worthwhile. Let's get it going, get it back. Hopefully time for a couple more before we leave. Come on. Woohoo! Come on.
This simply mind-blowing 80-pounder for Gav was the highlight of the week, and it was nice to share the moment, which is what it's all about.
Well done, mate.
All right, guys. It's been a very, very interesting week on this lake. It's been very difficult for us. Me, Si, Ed and Guy came out the draw last, and basically what you needed was access to the middle of the lake, it would appear, from all the catches that we've seen. There's some people caught them closer, but generally people are boating out into the middle, and it's 40 odd acres, and the fish seem to have got the winter mentality and have grouped together. It started off brilliant. You know, I had a couple in the first hour, including a 55 common, which was an absolute cracker. And I had a 31 as well. Guy had a 39. And the part of the lake that we ended up in was super slow to start with. Everyone was blanking down there. People down the other end were catching really well. And you know, there's been some great fish out as well, including an 81.4 that our friend Gav had, which was an amazing fish, you know, really long. It only had one eye as well. It had never had an eye on the other side. It just got like no orbit or anything. It was born a bit of a freak, but a right gnarly old sort of monster. So, you know, you can imagine it's a fish of a lifetime, so he's blown away by it. Anyway, it's been a bit of a mixed bag. We moved in torrential rain. There was a little window of opportunity. The fish were close in on the side that had been producing fish, but we were hemmed in, and we had 3 fish really in quick succession, absolutely soaked. It was like monsoon when we were setting up in it, and it just rained for 24 hours solid. I got up at 2 in the morning and sorted the rods out, and you know, it sometimes kills you when you've moved in all that horrible weather, and everything was soaked, and then we'd put everything in the van, rooting through it all, trying to find the bits and pieces you need. You know what it's like. And it was one of them beam me up Scotty moments. And anyway, we had a few fish, but unfortunately we cut off guys near Lee, who's done really well. He's been having loads of fish at range, but every time Lee gets a fish on, they've been kiting into guys' lines, so we've had to fish very short by comparison, and it hasn't worked out. But, you know, you can't win them all. These Euro trips, they're not all every throw a coconut. And, you know, I'm not complaining. I was on another water the week prior over here, and my first bite was a 64-14 common. So, you know, I've had a pretty decent trip in that respect. But we've got one night left, and I hope the monster drive's worth it, because it's a good 22, 23 hours drive. And dangerous as well. We've nearly had a few accidents on the road collectively coming over to this place with some maniac drivers that you get in Switzerland and Italy and France, I suppose, but the French seem a little bit better. Anyway, we're going to come back again, probably next July, where the weather's better, and see if we can take revenge for this. But all in all, it's been very exciting and interesting, although frustrating for us.
Right, we're on the last day now. I'm absolutely over the moon to have had that PB common. I just thought I'd talk you through the sort of sequence of events that led up to me catching it, really. So I think I said before, I'm in this little bay here, swim 3, so it's not far from where you come into the lake. And the fish were sort of in here, out in front of me when I first got in the swim, and I managed to pick up a couple of nice fish and lost one fairly quickly, within a couple of hours really. And then it's gone really quiet, so I've been kind of stood watching and looking up that end and kind of across the far side, and I did see a fish show kind of down that way, back towards swims 1 and 2, and there's no one in those swims, and actually there's no one else in this bay now, so that's kind of all my water at the moment. So seeing a fish show down there made me think maybe I could get a rod, go along the margin to one of the sort of spots where I'd seen a fish show, and I can walk along and bait up. So I took a bucket of pellet with me, a few broken boilies in there, and I just chucked out a bit of pellet there and left it for the day yesterday. And then I sent the boat out just before dark down to the spot and kind of walked along and made sure it landed exactly where I'd been baiting up, and that was the rod that went. So it just shows you that little bit of effort and kind of watching the water and keeping an eye on where the fish are showing can really help you catch extra fish. You know, that was a bonus fish, but also the biggest fish I've had this week, so I'm really glad that I did that. I could have stuck to my guns and fished the open water where I'd caught the first night that we moved into this swim, but you know, it hasn't done me a bite since then. So I've started looking at other options and it really paid off. Right, so hopefully you can see here I've got some pellets in the bucket that these are the actual house pellets that they sell here, and I thought, you know, if a lot of these pellets are going in the lake, they use them to feed the lake as well. Might as well use what the fish are used to. But also you might see that they're a little bit kind of fluffed up there, not just like whole pellets. So what I've done was I've poured some boiling water on them to kind of scald them, which helps stick them together so you can get them out a little bit further. If you kind of squash them into the scoop, they go in a bit of a lump, and then you can get them out a good kind of 3 rod lengths off the bank rather than just spraying everywhere in the wind. And it also helps sink them down a bit quicker, because pellets, when they're dry, sometimes have a habit of floating because they kind of get air bubbles trapped on them and things like that. So that's why I've done that. But also in there you might see there's a few little red bits, and these are amino marine boilies that I've just kind of broken up in my fingers to leave you know, little bits of boilie all going through the mix, so that when I'm using a boilie on the hair it kind of matches that and the flavour's kind of the same. I didn't want to sort of just have loads of small pellets out there and then have a boilie on the hair, because obviously the boilie stands out being a bit sort of different to everything else. So having a few bits of boilie in there kind of matches my hook bait a little bit, and gives me a good chance that the fish won't sort of suss it out and then just eat all the pellets and do the off. Right, so this is the rig that caught me that common early morning this morning, and you may have seen this before in some of my videos. It's basically just a D rig but tied with coated braid, and I've got a little bit of shrink tube on the shank there which just forms the end of the D, and then you tuck it back through the eye and blob it. And the shrink tube kicker on there a little bit stripped back near the hook just for a bit of movement, and then a couple of blobs of putty, and I've got that about 12 inches, which seems quite long, but fishing for big fish here, and the bottom's quite soft as well, so I've got a 4-ounce lead which could possibly sink in, so a nice long rig, make sure it's presented over that, and gives them plenty of rope to hang themselves with, because they are bigger fish. Now, because I'm using the pellet and the boilie crumb that I talked about, I've actually got a amino marine barrel. There's a hardened hook bait there that's been cured in salt and liquids, so it should last all night, you know, if there's any crayfish, because there are a few in here, and you know, any nuisance species that are going to peck away at it, that'll just hopefully last that a little bit longer. And I've got a little bit of yellow on top just as a tipper, because they see a lot of maize and corn in this lake, so a little bit of yellow is kind of natural to them. So that's the setup. I'm going to get that back out for tonight, the last night of the trip. Hopefully we can catch another fish before we have to do that big long drive back home tomorrow. It's been an awesome week. It's been hard, but I managed a few fish, and I'm very happy to catch a new PB. So we'll see what tonight brings, and we'll give you a quick update in the morning before we have to get off.
Well, it's going to be a blank for me. Things didn't quite pan out the way they should have done. I don't think I did a great deal wrong in what I was doing. I just wasn't on the fishing numbers. I feel as though I probably should have nicked a fish here and there like Simon did and Frank did, but it was never going to be a big hit. So I'll just put it down to a bit of bad luck. Going into last night was my most confident night, because Gav next door, who had the 80, decided he didn't want to fish last night, so he let me cast one of my rods into his swim, so I actually got a rod in the main zone that's been doing all the fish, doing all the bites, all the big uns. So that left-hand rod was actually in there. But last night was the first night of the trip where nobody's had a bite. So it's just one of those things. Didn't get lucky this session. Obviously it was the draw that hurt us, but it is what it is. I feel disappointed I didn't nick one, but it's been a really enjoyable trip. This lake's stunning. You know, the Alps are in the background. It's a lovely place to be, and hopefully I'll be back one day to even the score a little bit.
Right, good morning, and it is the last morning here in Italy, and look at that out there, absolutely stunning. There's mist rising off the lake, Everything's wet because of the dew in the air, but yeah, we've got to start the laborious task of packing down and putting everything away. It's been a tough week, but we've seen some absolutely monumental fish this week, and some really nice fish caught by the Prologic guys as well. Frank's biggest, I think, 55. I had a 50 as well, and there's been a few sort of nice 40s and things. But we are getting to see an 80 pounder and a couple of 70s. Just been mind-blowing, really. What an amazing place. Somewhere that I'd love to come back to one day. Hopefully we can get on the fish next time. It's been tricky because of our last place in the draw, making location very difficult, and you know, we've done our best really. We've moved swims, we've sort of followed them around. Ed's tried stalking a couple of times on fizzing fish and things like that, but it just hasn't come good for him. But you know, we've managed to winkle out a few, so all is not lost. And we've had a really, really nice time here. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the Prologic channel for more content coming out. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and tight lines.